It's good to see everybody there. It's good to be seen by you, and hope you've had a good weekend so far. It's nice. The weather's cooled down a bit, and if weeks are like every other week, you've had ups and downs this past week, and hopefully this will be one of your ups. Coming here and fellowship with other brothers and sisters, and I just encourage you to keep going out and inviting people to church. This is a time when I think people are starting to think about, hey, maybe I need to get things right with God. It's always the right time to get right with God, isn't it? And so I just want to tug on your heart there, your spirit. Isn't that a nice looking picture? When you think of your dream place to go, what do you think about? You know, sometimes you think about a physical place to go to, right? Well, to me, it's kind of a state of mind. I like to be able to have a time of peace, maybe like this right here, a cup of coffee, the Bible, and the ocean right there. That's kind of neat, isn't it? Really, what's the most attractive part to that? Just being with God. You can be distracted by the ocean and how pretty that is and the sound of air, which is nice, I understand. But really what draws us is the sound of God and the way he speaks to us. And so as we are going through the Sermon on the Mount, it's just wonderful to hear the words of Jesus. And it just, what a blessing to have what he said 2,000 years ago. And we get to read it. What a blessing, isn't it? And so this verse I want to focus on today may be a little bit different than what you're used to. All right? So read this here with me, and then we'll get to what Ben read in a little bit. So Matthew 7, verse 6, this is right after the judgment passage, right, of last week. Jesus said, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." You know, there's quite a few statements that Jesus made that I'm sure the disciples and the people listening to him would say, what? Who is he talking to? And that's why it's so good to have context to understand what he's talking about. Because if you just took that verse out of everything here, it would leave you maybe scratching your head, okay? And a good example of context, put the soccer game to remind me, I was at the Stephen's soccer game last week, and I saw someone I had coached with years before when he was younger. So I was over talking to him, and his folks were behind him. And Stephen's team last year did really good. They made for state. They went down in Hamilton and played in some state competition. This year they're struggling more. They won yesterday, did a good job. But they lost the game that I was watching, that I'm referencing right now. And the game just wasn't going their way. And so I was talking to my friend Matt here, and then I heard from behind us, and she said, "They are just really bad." And I must have gave her a look. She was like, then she got a look, right? Because as soon as I heard that, they are just really bad this year, I was like, what in the world? You know, they're 8-10. Take it easy, you know. And then she was like, no, I'm talking about the sweat bees. The sweat bees are really bad this year. And so I didn't hear any of that. She must have been talking to her husband about the sweat bees, but she said really out loud, they're really bad this year. And that's all I heard. But she, by the look I gave her, and I even had sunglasses on, she said, she explained to me what she was talking about. So it's good to get context. Because if I was just taking that, they're really bad this year, I would get an opinion was like, she's kind of rude. But now she's talking about the sweat bees, and I agree. The sweat bees are kind of bad this year. And so it's good to get context here. Because if you just look at Jesus calling people dogs and pigs, now you think, that's a little strange. I wouldn't have thought he would have done that. But remember, the 5 verses before, he was talking about judgment. All right? And what a blessing it is to have judgment, righteous judgment. I won't re-preach last week, but it's good to have righteous judgment. It's a blessing to Christians and non-Christians alike. Okay? And it's so true. So really, there's other things that go in there. Judgment, counsel, and discipline are pearls. And we have other pearls. And that's one thing you have to think about. When you read this pearls before swine, you need to think about, one, what are pearls, and two, what is the swine? So right now I want us to think about pearls. So what is the most valuable assets that you have? And you may think your family, children, whatever you may think. But definitely for us, Christians, our most precious pearl is Jesus. The gospel even, okay? Look at here, Hebrews 12, 5 through 7. My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For those whom the Lord loves, he disciplines, and he scourges every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you endure. God deals with you as with sons, for what son is there whom his father does not discipline? Now, discipline in the moment is never pleasing. I've never met a child, and I was never a child when I was disciplined thinking, thank you, Father. You know, it's never the case. But much later, I'm very glad that my parents disciplined me. Okay? It was a blessing. And so we need to understand that parents discipline those that they love. And really, if they don't discipline their kids, then they don't love them that way. They love themselves and don't want to feel that awkwardness. All right? They're more concerned about their own feelings than the future of their children. And so discipline is a form of love. And we need to understand that. And the gospel is a big form of love, is it not? But with the gospel comes a lot of discipline and some judgment, does it not? Because really, a big part of the gospel is you're lost without Jesus. So that's judgment. You're lost without Jesus. But it's love because we need to tell people this. Because we want them not to be lost anymore. And so if you see someone going the long way, I could have played that little video from the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles about them going the long way on the road, right? You're going the wrong way. And so it's out of love that we try to correct people and say, you're going the wrong way, you need to go the right way. But you know what? In fact, you're going to be criticized by trying to help people. Have you ever been there? Trying to help someone in any way. Maybe they're not preparing food the correct way. You know, you need to cook that chicken a little bit longer. I know you like pink, but that's not good to be in the middle of your chicken. All right? Likewise, spiritually, it's out of love we say, you know what? You really need to get right with God. I said that to someone this past week. And I said, you know what? You're a really good guy. You just need to get church in your life. Or you need to get into church. And he's one of my good friends in the area, but he doesn't come. All right? And so, and he just listened to me, thanks, and we moved on to the next subject. But I throw that out there whenever I can. And he doesn't take it offensive for me because he knows me. He knows I care for him. And, we have a good relationship. But there are others that would not take it well. And like it says there, they would trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Now, have you ever seen wild pigs or boars? Now, we think of swine, we may think of the pigs that are just in the fence, whatever. But if you've seen wild pigs, they are wild. And they'll come after you. Did you know that? They'll charge you. You can't say, boo, get away, pigs. No, they'll say boo and come after you. All right? And you're going to be looking for a tree to climb or try to run faster than the person next to you. All right? And so this is how it can be. You're trying to help, hey guys, there's some judgment, there's some gospel, I want you to know. And then they come after you. All right? And so there's something here I want us to think about. But for sure, know that your pearls of the gospel may not be appreciated. And be sure to know that your pearls, your most valuable pearls, should be the gospel. And that's a question you ask yourself. What is my greatest treasure? And if it's not Jesus, then you've got the wrong pearls. Now, there's a lot of people that have pearls, such as their possessions, the pride in how people look at them, their reputation. Now, all those can be good things, but it's not more valuable than the pearl of Jesus and the wonderful pearl of the gospel. And so now I want us to think about these dogs that Jesus talks about, all right? Who are the pigs and dogs? Now imagine when the people are listening to this and Jesus says, don't throw these pearls, before the swine and dogs. People are thinking, is he talking about me? You? And it's just interesting to me when people talk about Jesus as like, I want to be a great unifier like Jesus, nothing but love like Jesus. But Jesus spoke some strong words. In some ways, he wants to wake people up. But he, of course, was right. I'm sure we can agree about that. Jesus was right. Because that may sound kind of strong to you. That's a little strong, Jesus, and I don't know if I like that. So here's a question. Does Jesus offend you? Or are you offended to take Jesus with you wherever you go? Because if you tell someone to this passage, Jesus told me not to throw pearls before swine. He's like, Jesus said that? Swine? Why would he say that? Well, to warn. I think he's saying this to his disciples to warn them that their wisdom about the gospel is not going to be appreciated by everybody. And what did he say? He says, don't even throw your pearls before the swine. Don't do it. All right? And so there's something to there. So I love this passage that Ben read here in chapter 15. I don't know why it's on there. So I want to read it again. And the Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, saying, have mercy on me, Lord, son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed. But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, send her away, because she keeps shouting at us. But he answered and said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Again, he uses the word dogs. And this passage is in Matthew. It's in Matthew chapter 15 there. So this is consistent, okay, how he's using dogs in chapter 7 and now in chapter 15 here. He knows what he's saying when he says dogs again. Okay? It's not good to take the bread and give it to the dogs. So who is he talking to about as dogs here? This Canaanite woman. There is no way to misunderstand this, that he's calling this woman a dog. Now, if you weren't offended about Matthew 7:6, then you're probably offended definitely here in Matthew 15 when he's calling the woman a dog. How well would that go over today? Wow, you may be a star of a YouTube video if you went out and said something like this to somebody. But he did it. He called the Pharisees snakes, vipers before. And so Jesus did not shy away to use strong language here. And so Jesus came to the lost sheep of Israel. Even the people he came to, he called them an animal as well. Called them the lost sheep. And it's these lost sheep that he had compassion for, right? He was moved to compassion, great emotion, compassion for them. But the people outside of the Israelite community, like this Syrian Phoenician woman, this Canaanite woman, she was a dog. And apparently that was the right thing to say because Jesus said it. Okay? And so the bread is not for the dogs. So what does he think about what is the bread? Who's the bread in this scenario? Himself, isn't it? He's the bread. Because he said that he came for the lost sheep. And the dog wants the bread. She wants the bread, Jesus. Okay? And look here at Matthew 26:26. While they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat it, this is my body. Now, Matthew was a pretty learned person, so he understands consistently using dogs in his letter, consistently using bread in his letter. It makes sense. Context. Understanding dogs, bread, and Jesus. We need to understand this as well. So, if Jesus is the bread, and he's not going to give himself just to anybody, but to the lost sheep of Israel, then what hope is there for the dogs, this lady, and non-Israelite people? Okay? Now, so if we bring this passage today, 2020, who are the dogs? We're the dogs. We're non-Israelite people. We were at some point dogs. That Jesus would not have came and spoken to our group when he came. Do we have any Jewish people here? Anybody with Jewish blood? Okay. Me neither. I rose my hand as an example to raise your hand, but I don't either. All right? Now, I've been grafted in. I've been adopted. So spiritually, I have that blood in me, but I don't have physically that blood. So Jesus would not came to any circles that I would have been in when he came. So his dog. I think that's an important thing of the masters, okay? So look at the last part of this in Matthew 15, 27, 28. But she said, look how she responded, yes, Lord. Okay, I want to get to that, rest of that later. But she responded, yes, Lord. Now, she was just called a dog, okay? And she said, yes, Lord. What amazing humbleness here. And, you know, where was the disciples? You think the disciples were offended when he referenced her as a dog? No. They wanted him to shut her up. Send her away. Tell her to be quiet. She's bothering us. Sometimes these disciples seem pretty fragile people. She's bothering you. Oh, her talking about her sick daughter, she's bothering you? That's too bad. But apparently, they said, Jesus, send her away. And when he called her a dog, they're probably like, that's right, dog. They might have said, amen. Or might have said, dog to dog. Maybe make some noises like dogs. Maybe it have been offensive. But you know, up to this point, Jesus said nothing about her, said nothing to her. But he challenged her, didn't he? He challenged her. And she was so humble. She said, yes, Lord. Why would she ever do that when someone just called her a dog? She must have really loved her daughter, right? Because she knew the only chance her daughter had was sitting right here in Jesus. And if someone you loved was sick, terminally sick, demon-possessed, and the only cure was held by this person right here, and if they called you a dog, you would not care. Because your love for your daughter will be greater than your pride when someone insulted you. Now, we struggle with this nowadays because we are so prideful. If someone offends us in the slightest way, we think it's the end of the world. But this lady here understood that her daughter was so valuable, loved her so much, that she was willing to be called a dog. So let's look at the rest of this. She said, yes, Lord. But even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus said to her, O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish. And her daughter was healed at once. Not much later, at once. Now Jesus, being God, he knew her heart. He knew everything. But he wanted her to express it in this way. He was apparently wanted her to show her humbleness here. So to think, well, Jesus, he wouldn't allow me to be humbled in any way. He did it to her. Why would he not do it to you? Are you willing to be humbled for Jesus? Are you willing to be humbled for what you love? And so Jesus loved how persistent she was. And she knew where the cure was. How confident are we where the cure is? Obviously we know, because we're Christians. If you're all here and have been baptized, you know Jesus is the cure. But how confident are you that, therefore, you need to take it to other people? Now, the world tells us there's a lot of good people out there. You don't have to be Christian to be good. Okay, we have to get to our definitions of good. Because Jesus is here calling people dogs and pigs. And apparently all these dogs and pigs are people outside of the kingdom. Now, you can be a good dog, or you can be a good pig. Good piggy, we're going to eat you. You know? It's better to be a child of God. It's better to be a child of God. So her faith blessed her daughter and her. Because, wonderful. Can you imagine getting home? When did she find out? Not until she got home. So Jesus says, okay, go, your daughter's healed. I don't think she took her daughter with her, being demon-possessed. We don't know what all that meant at the moment, but she probably didn't bring her daughter with her. So she went home and found out her daughter's cured. the party that night must have been great. They might have killed a sheep, a lamb, and eaten it, roasted it, and celebrated that her daughter's well now, is good. You notice I didn't say she would have killed a pig and eaten it, right? The Jewish people, they didn't eat pigs, right? Remember that. So then the insult of Jesus calling people pigs is doubly, okay? It's an unattractive animal, and it's a dirty animal to the Jewish people. And she was willing to go through all that in order for her daughter. And so I want to talk about seekers just for a moment. This woman was a pure seeker. And so Matthew 7:7, the next verse, after the dogs and swine passage, once again in context, and we'll talk about this more the next time I talk about Sermon on the Mount. It says, ask and it would be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it would be open to you. So he goes from judgment in the first 5 verses, chapter 6, don't throw the pearls before swine. Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. And then we have that wonderful story there in Matthew 15 about this woman being willing to be called a dog because she was truly seeking. So are they an unteachable pig or a humble dog? Okay? That's something we need to think about as we share the gospel. Because when you have something very valuable to you, are you willing to give to someone who's going to trash it? You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, if you give a gift to someone, then it's theirs to do whatever they want to with, right? If they don't treat it well, then fine. But I guarantee you, if I give someone something valuable and they don't treat it well, I'm not going to give them another gift. Okay? And so we're going to have to make these judgments as you bring the gospel to people. Like, are they going to be respectful of what I bring to them? Because to me, I get out of joint a little bit when I talk about Jesus and people make fun of Jesus. Maybe I know I need to grow in my humbleness, and maybe in that moment too. But I'm like, I'm sorry I brought it up. Because I hate when Jesus is defiled, talked down to, trampled upon. I have even sometimes apologized to Jesus. I'm sorry I took someone not worthy to hear your name. Which is all of us true. But I think about this passage. I threw my pearl before a swine. Not only did they trample on it, but they came after me and carried me to pieces. Unfortunately, that's going to happen. It's hard to know exactly until you throw those pearls out. But there are people that are asking and knocking, like that Canaanite woman. She's seeking. The disciples that are there at the Sermon on the Mount, they're seeking and hungry. That they're coming. And Jesus has compassion on them, right? There are people that are seeking the truth. They're seeking Jesus and a better understanding of Jesus. Now, true, Jesus was a unifier of all those seekers, unifying them to God. But he was also a great divider. Because if you weren't with him, if you weren't a follower of God, then you're lost. Isn't that pretty divisive? You're either saved or lost. But you get to choose which one you're going to be. But they're all lost people out there. Now, this is just me sermonizing and thinking about this. How that demon-possessed daughter is like a soul. Because everybody who is not saving Jesus, in a way they're kind of like demon-possessed, right? And you bring that soul to Jesus. Jesus, please heal my soul. And you're going to get offended. Jesus will offend you 100% when you're lost. It's like, you're lost, you're going to hell, you're not worthy to come to heaven. You're a dog. And everybody has to get past that saying, yes, Lord, but please heal me. Because you're the one with the cure. We need to be that way, don't we? We need to get past our pride and say, Jesus, please help me. Please help. So look at this again. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, where they will trample them under their feet and turn and carry you to pieces. Knowing how the ungrateful may react helps. They did it to Jesus. They've done it to me. I'm sure they've done it to you too. So be prepared a little bit. Sometimes it helps you mentally to prepare as you talk to people that this is going to happen. Now, I would recommend don't call them swine in that moment. You do what you want, but just shake the dust off your feet and go on. But it's going to happen. So some discretion is advised here. Jesus says don't even do it. If you know someone's a swine, don't throw your pearls, me, to them. Okay? But Jesus, he always blessed seekers. People seeking him, he may test them a little bit, but he would bless them, like this woman that came. She was a true seeker and wanted what Jesus had to offer. She wanted the great physician. So as you think about meditating on the Lord, his messages, and how beautiful that is, accept what he has to teach. Accept what he has to teach and learn from it. Know that whatever he teaches is 100% true. And if you disagree or don't understand, then understand the joy that you have so much to learn. That's the way I look at it. When I hear something from Jesus, and I think this is hard, I don't agree, I get excited because there must be so much more I need to learn here because I'm struggling with it. And that may be this verse, Matthew 7:6 for some of you. But without a doubt, Jesus is the cure for all that ails. All the spiritual ailments we have, Jesus is the cure. And he's the cure for you today. If you have an ailment, a spiritual ailment that doesn't seem to go away, Jesus is the cure. And if you want to come forward and talk, if you want to talk with me or one of the leaders later, please come and talk. We want to talk. I talk with others when I feel sick, and it's a great blessing. But we all need the doctor. Okay? Please come forward as we sing this song.